So, if you look at an LSD molecule and you look at a serotonin molecule, they are structurally similar. Very, very structurally similar. And actually, LSD has a higher affinity to bond to the receptor than serotonin itself. When you think about the nuclear process of, releasing atomic energy from the shell of an atom that contains a nucleus and an electron, you understand that there are only certain ways to synthesize this physical energy into chemical energy or into your body as kinetic energy or stored energy. You know what I mean? At the very end of the line, it goes from molecule to atom to experience. And the currency for that experience to be able to happen is energy. You wouldn't say that a silver atom is inherently energized. I mean, it is, but if you were to put it into your, the energy is contained within the structure of the silver. And so there are only a few processes that can take atoms and create usable energy. And the thing about human brain studies and sciences and stuff like that is they can't really tell you. They won't really tell you. No one actually knows how you can break open an atomic shell with the human brain and then suddenly have access to energy by eating food. No one knows what that process is. And so there are hypotheses such as quantum consciousness. Roger Penrose and other people are looking at the microtubules that are like the smallest visible parts of the human brain that could behave as a liquid crystal, as in, depending on their alignment with each other, you're going to get a certain phase. And when they're in phase X, you have consciousness X. When they're in phase Y, you have consciousness Y. And so, kind of like in fluid dynamics, when you say that you freeze water and the molecular structure of all the water becomes more crystalline and solid and not free moving, it's a similar thing that's happening with the brain. The microtubules are communicating with each other via a pattern. And so these types of patterns are the same things that you see when you plug a piano into a metal plate and then you put sand on the metal plate. It creates standing wave patterns and stuff depending on what frequency you're using. And that's my best explanation on how it works. Something about this microtubule, kind of in a similar sense that a single-celled organism would be able to take atomic level energy from its surroundings, or electromagnetic radiation, for example. There's some process that's happening that is freeing the electrons from these atoms when your body breaks down sugars and sends them through your blood to your brain. So the whole point is that LSD has a higher affinity for those receptors and is broken down more efficiently and there leads to more energy being available for the brain to create whatever phase of consciousness it wants. So you think of playing a guitar, you play a G chord, it sounds like that, then you fine tune all the strings, make sure they're in line right, and turn down all the background noise, and then you play the same G chord, it sounds 5 times better. And when you put grease on a bike chain, there's less friction, the whole system is running more efficiently. There's actually evidence that your visual acuity increases on low levels of psychedelics. My thing is, everything is arbitrary. Everything. Because infinity is infinite. And so our job as human beings is to be in this random place that we are in and derive its meaning from the situations we're presented with. You know what I'm saying? At the bottom of every experience is it. It is the fundamental underlying principle of existence. And some say that it's consciousness. Some say that it's awareness, Some say that it's God. And some say that it's you. And some say that life is substrate neutral, so it doesn't matter what it is because life will find its way into it. And kind of like letters in the alphabet, the meaning emerges when the combinations of different nothings are observed. If you take a mud foot and a mud foot, 2 mud legs and a mud torso, attach it to a mud head and 2 mud arms, next thing you know, you've got a sculpture that can stand or that can be placed in an expressive pose. So, to me, energy is the key to unlocking doors at higher levels, and energizing your brain is as easy as tapping your forehead, closing your eyes, and saying Om 3 times. 3 times. And if you want to actually get a little bit more specific, there are natural resonance patterns in the human body, and a good one to do is 10 hertz, 100 hertz, and 1,000 hertz. If you combine a 10 hertz frequency, a 100 hertz frequency, and 1,000 hertz frequency, aim it at the center of your forehead and close your eyes, basically what you're doing is you're taking the natural vibration of your body and you're amplifying it. And that's seriously going to fix anything that's freaking broken in there. Because, they've found that giving LSD to terminally ill patients that are old, and this is not a grand study, this is more like leading, pioneering study, but this woman who had some form of identity loss, I think it was dementia. I think she had dementia. They gave her LSD and all of a sudden she just came to life. A microdose, 10 micrograms, 1/4 basically, or less than a half of a hit, 10 micrograms, and all of a sudden she came to life. She was singing and talking, and she knew who she was and everything. And so the world exists in a levels-based information consolidation paradigm. As in, anything that can be encoded in 1D will, and the whole 1D space can be filled without putting a single thing in the 2D space. And then there's a 3D space, a 4D space, so on and so forth. It's just that the brain is the remote control that gives the witness access to different level consciousnesses. And what works most for humans, at least 10,000 years ago when we evolved, was spatial recognition of nearby objects, hearing someone approach, and tasting a poisonous food versus a strawberry and stuff like that. And using psychedelics is like a weird way to peek into something that you almost shouldn't be allowed to see, because human beings, our development as a species is headed that way, headed towards higher level consciousness. But if we keep fighting amongst ourselves, we're never going to make that step. Because when you're in hyperspace, you can't defend yourself because you're not seeing what's around you. And there really needs to be a moral and political congruence or congealment of an ideal among everyone that can be agreed upon as good. Because we're infantile in our development and our understanding of the way things work. The smartest among us have no idea. And if more people took psychedelics, there would be a better understanding of everything, everyone. It's just a better way to feed your brain. It really is. It's been proven that it propagates neuroplasticity, as in it creates a better situation for neuroplasticity and higher interconnection between different parts of the brain. So if you think about it, it's almost like in 1970 when the US government made psychedelics illegal. What they really did was they stunted our development as a society. And now you look at cultures that have been around for 2,000 years, you look at their stability and their religious practices and their everyday life, and you compare it to the United States, who's been around for 250 years and has no culture, no sense of direction and anything like that. And then you wonder, what's the difference? Well, up until 1970, everyone was taking psychedelics. It's like choosing to breathe at the most shallow level possible, providing the minimum required amount of oxygen to your brain to stay alive. No, you want to take deep breaths. You want to pump your blood full of oxygen, because that is going to do a lot of things for your brain and your perception and your thinking and your mood. And it's the same with stretching, massage, exercise. All these things, the purpose of them is to release endorphins in your brain that help you and make you, A, realize that what you're doing is a good thing, and B, it fixes the soul. You sit there laughing with your best friend for a half an hour. Next thing you know, you're in a good mood, you have a good day, you make somebody else's day better. It's beneficial for the species to have elated experiences throughout everyday life. And a good way to pretty much guarantee that is by taking psychedelics. You know, I've listened to top researchers talk about this stuff, and I've known a lot of people who've done it, and I know it's not as mainstream as it was in the 60s. But if you seriously think hard at all about our society right now, where we are at the median level, the average person in American society has no clue what's going on. And with the resources becoming less and less available, and the fear and the anticipation of things becoming stronger and stronger, we're gonna need some kind of paradigm change. And psychedelics are a better way to get your brain there than, say, a stressful breakdown or a fight or flight response, or something that's going to, there are different ways to get to hyperspace. The easiest way is with psychedelics. And when you get there, you'll understand why you needed to go. That's the thing about it. And the first time you find it, it's just like being reunited with yourself. It's like going to the army and coming back and your dog's there waiting for you, but you didn't know you had a dog, but then you remember him, and then you have all these feelings, and like, but it's you that you're, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but like, I want the children of this earth to have a better life than I had. And so I think everybody should want that. And if we're going to reduce suffering, the best way is to increase understanding.